Marcia, are you okay?
It's gonna be all right.
I just so love La Llorona.
Hey everyone, welcome to the horror show. I'm Cecil Laird.
I'm Marshbecker.
I mean, Fuego here.
Fresh out of our advanced screening of The Curse of La Llorona, or La Llorona, as a lot of our audience might pronounce it, because this movie is based on the lore straight out of Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, it goes as far back as the Aztecs, if I'm not mistaken, because a little bit of research will tell you that they chose to start the legend in 1570-something. But yeah, guys, we're here to talk about The Curse of La Llorona. And this one, we're going to do the review like we do all of them. So we'll talk about our overall thoughts, then we'll talk about the story, the acting, the effects, definitely the cinematography, all that good stuff in turn. And, well, ladies first, Marcia, what were your overall thoughts on The Curse of La Llorona?
It's a weird one for me because I thought like they hit every like element you should be hitting for a movie like this. But overall, I wouldn't say it moved me, and I wouldn't say I hated it. It was just like another day at the movies, and just, you know, I think the audience was a little bit more entertaining than the actual movie was at some points, and it's hard because I really wanted to like this movie, and there's a lot of things that I did like about it, but it just didn't like go all the way. Like it was just.
I can see why you'd say that. Okay, Fuego.
Good, not great. I mean, I enjoyed it enough. There was I honestly, and I said this to Patrick from Allied, I had a little more fun with just the bat chisel bonkersness of the nun. You know, in all honesty, I know you didn't.
No.
But yeah, this was more humorous than I expected. But it was just it was a very simple story at the end of the day, and while performances were good and everything was solid enough about it, I'm going to echo Marcia's sentiments and say that it just didn't wow me. But it's not a bad movie. It's very well made, and, you know, solid scares here and there, you know, and I like the climax a lot.
Yeah,
you know?
so we all came out of this feeling basically exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I enjoyed the presentation that we got.
Mm-hmm.
I was not blown away. There were a lot of tropey things in this, just like most big budget studio horror movies that come out. I don't think it was as entertaining as a lot of the other Conjuring movies, which, by the way, we're going to say right up front that this is officially part of the Conjuring Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Much more so because we were basically told by the studio, yeah, this is part of the Conjuring Universe a little bit ago, but man, having seen it, it literally ties directly into the Conjuring Universe, and so there's no denying that it's part of it. There's no arguing against it. This movie, The Curse of La Llorona, is a part of the Conjuring Universe, and to that end, I feel that it was along the same lines as The Nun. I mean, it was a fully competent horror movie, but it's just stuff that we've seen over and over again in other, likely better horror movies in the past.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump in here, but your point about The Conjuring and what aspect they did show, what ties it, I think they may have purposely done that so they can link to an upcoming film that we will be seeing rather soon. So I just kind of made that connection a little bit because of the choice that they made. I was like, oh, you know what? I feel like we're not going to see the last of this La Llorona.
Also, another interesting thing.
Just pronounce it like there's a Y
La
instead of two
Llorona.
L's in the last word. La Llorona.
Llorona.
That's better.
La 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 la
Llorona.
Llorona.
La la
I'm
la
really
la
good at
Llorona.
I'm really good at foreign languages. Clearly really successful.
Well,
at
and
that.
Marcia,
From
you're
New England here.
Well, I mean, Marcia is perceptive in the fact that so the guy who directed this, Michael Chavez, he's actually directing The Conjuring 3.
Is he really?
Yeah, he has been handpicked by James Wan to do the third Conjuring movie.
I could see why.
Which is a bummer that Wan's not returning, but obviously, I mean, this is his test run.
There was
so to
some
speak.
skill demonstrated.
It was.
Oh, yeah.
There was some skill demonstrated as a director. I think all of the acting was definitely good. You know, I feel like it was all strong enough. There was no real weak person in the bunch. That goes towards directing.
Yeah.
The overall look of the film was good and solid and consistent. That goes towards directing. So
and honestly consistent to the Conjuring universe.
yeah,
in all
indeed.
honesty.
This did
And the
just
time
feel
period,
like
too.
it largely is a haunted house movie, very much in line with Conjuring 1 and 2. It's more in line with Conjuring 1 and 2 than it is with the Annabelle movies. It is pretty close to The Nun, though. You're not wrong on that. That is a very good comparison. So yeah, those are all our overall thoughts. Let's get into the story of it. So the story is about a social worker who is a part of the CPA, essentially, the Child Protective Services, and she's an agent there looking over a bunch of cases. She has 2 kids of her own, and she's a single mother at this point. She had a police husband, and he's apparently died on the job. So she's doing this and trying to care for 2 kids. And early in the movie, she's called on this case where this woman who has been monitored, because of her 2 kids, hasn't been responding. And so she has to go investigate it. And when she does, the mother is very far gone, dirty. The whole place is lit up with candles. And she has a door that's completely boarded and symbols are painted over it and stuff. And so, she's acting like, don't go in there, telling the caseworker. And the caseworker's like, are your kids in here? What's going on? And she's like, no, don't open the door. And it's actually a pretty cool opening because the whole time you're like, oh, is she back there? Is La Llorona waiting there? And she actually tries so hard to stop the caseworker from opening the door, she attacks her. The policeman comes in and stops her. And the woman opens the door and finds the 2 kids who are not happy to be rescued.
No.
And so they basically say, no, we're not safe. The lady's like, it's okay, you're safe now. And they're like, no, we're not. And it turns out that that family was being attacked or haunted by La Llorona. And because of the caseworker's involvement, without spoiling anything in the movie, La Llorona starts to shift her gaze towards this woman. And I will say, without spoiling, but it does go towards story, the reasoning as to why it happens, I was like, this is very convenient just because she was there and stuff. But the reasoning as to why, I actually liked. I actually liked when they explained why it was happening to this person or this family and stuff. So
yeah, that part did throw me because I was like, oh, because when that family first gets introduced to the spirit, like it kind of made sense to me there. And then when they re-explained it, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
like
so they pulled the curtain back a little
yeah,
further.
and I'm like, yeah, all right. I don't know. It didn't wow me as much. I thought it was more of just.
I thought it
like,
gave a good
really?
explanation that otherwise would have been too convenient to have the thing shift over to them. You know what I mean? It actually gave a reason for it.
Well,
so.
sometimes you just have to you're in the wrong place and you're on
Yeah,
Wrong
but
leg,
that
wrong
happens
time.
too much, though. I like that there was a little more to it, is what I'm saying.
I mean,
Deeper.
That's what I
it
like
is-
to it.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from. I
So
like
yeah,
it.
from there, it's La Llorona has shifted her gaze to the caseworker and her kids, and wants to take the kids. And we do get a bit of a backstory. So for those of you that don't know, the lore behind La Llorona, at least as presented in this film, you can find various various stories online.
And there's lots of like different regional nuances too.
Exactly,
There's some little alterations to the lore.
Exactly, but the one presented is that this woman who had just been married, had 2 kids with this man, and she apparently finds him cheating, and in order to enact revenge, she kills her 2 kids by drowning them, but then afterwards realizes what she's done and weeps for it and cries, upset that she's done what she's done. And so from then on, she seeks other kids to kill in order to trade to the afterlife to bring her kids back.
Great way to send a message.
Yeah, that's the story behind La Llorona, and so that is who is after the family. And yeah, I mean, that's basically the long and short of the story. And while, yes, it was simple, I actually appreciated that they didn't try and overcomplicate it with this plot line and that plot line. They just let this one play out. It was an hour and 35 minutes maybe an hour and 30. So it wasn't an overly long movie. It was short and to the point.
Which
and
the Conjuring films proper normally are. They're
yeah,
like over 2 hours.
Those don't feel bloated, though, and this one didn't feel bloated either. So I feel like they made the right length of a movie here, and that the story served itself well. Your guys' thoughts on the story?
I agree. I think it moved very fluidly. So like you were brought in right off the bat into the backstory, which led into, you know, the current, you know, going on that, you know, you find yourself with the social worker and the other family and so on and so forth. So they didn't waste a lot of time dwelling on the backstory and the legend. They gave you enough to go to prepare you for what you're about to watch. So I thought that was nice. But yeah, I don't, like you said, I don't think they needed much more than what they presented. And you know, and the acting was really well done and to carry out through the story. So, but there's really not more to say about it, because there really isn't much more to. Not even, I don't even say there's really anything to spoil from that, because it's like.
Yeah, we likely won't be recording a spoiler review.
It's super simple, and for what we don't talk about, it's worth watching the movie to experience.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, totally. You know, I will say that I started to have a lot more fun once the Raphael character showed up.
Yeah.
Once they went to consult him, he brought a very interestingly, like, just dueling tone to things. It was way funnier than I was anticipating. You know, he had some of the best lines in the
But it was
entire
all
film,
deadpan kind of stuff.
It was.
It
Trevor
worked
gets
very
scared.
well.
No. Yeah, he was good. But I mean, at the end of the day, I feel like they're anticipating viewers coming into this movie with an understanding of the lore already. At least some sort of grasp of it, which is why they just kind of gloss over it very, very, just kind of basically.
I guess, you know? Yeah, I mean, they did gloss over it a little bit, I guess. It felt that way. It felt fast anyway. But it told the whole story.
It did, yeah.
You know, so I don't know that they glossed over anything. It just went fast.
Yeah, and there's just not as much to say. I don't know. Most of my Mexican friends, they're like, dude, this is the tale that my grandmother would always, like, anytime I'd be acting up, like, Llorona's gonna come and get you.
Yeah.
You know, wise your ass up, and so on and so forth.
It is a cautionary tale that has been told, you know, and I, like, you even said, like, I know people that I work with that would talk about, like, their grandmother and their mother would say the same story to get them in line. So it is interesting to see it come to life and kind of get that experience.
Now, to piggyback on that, we did see it in a packed theater. This is a 4 day in advance screening, and we are in Arizona. So we had a very a multicultural audience. So a lot of our audience were very familiar with this lore. You could tell just by listening to the audience as the movie played out. They were very into it. Played very well here. I do not know that it will play as well in Washington or Oregon or Maine. You know what I mean? It played very well here in Arizona, but I don't know that it's going to play as well everywhere else. But seeing it in that crowd did enhance the experience for me, because I could tell that people were really into it, and I was like, I'm not as into it, but it's fun for me to feel all of these people that are as into it as they are.
Yeah, it was an energetic crowd, that's for sure.
So let's jump into the cinematography. I feel that this separated itself, and it actually was very close to The Conjuring 2. If I recall, The Conjuring 2 starts off pretty early with the long shot that goes into the house and shows what the family is doing and all that stuff. Beautiful tracking shot. This one did the same thing with the family, and I was like, okay, they're making it feel like a part of the universe, even just in how the shots are presented. But the whole thing was presented more than competently. I mean, it was presented beautifully at a lot of times. A lot of gorgeously fearful shots. I mean, the shot at one point they run into a church, and it's both shots that they settle on are like picturesque.
Yeah.
Like that's the mark of a good cinematography, or the mark of good cinematography in a movie is when you can take almost any frame as a still shot and it would make a good photograph.
Right.
True.
And this, I felt like, had that going for it.
All the way through. I mean, you could tell they really spent some time and thought and really through every, like, not only just the shots but the set design, and just location settings, and like you said, it was just so beautiful, and the choices. And there's a scene with the pool and the way they use the pool to shadow the sky.
Really
Oh, that was a great shot.
There was, like, I even like wow, that's beautiful. Like,
and I was
amazing.
in my head, I was like, that's a great shot, and then you're like, wow, that's a good shot, and I was like, yep.
yeah, like, and there's so many awesome, like, things that you can pull from that movie, and just watching it, because I mean the story was really light, so I was actually more enjoying the rest of rest of the movie.
How it's presented more than the story. I was on the same page there.
Yeah, because it was showing. I felt like visually it was a lot more entertaining than the actual like what was happening.
How it was being told to you was that's a good way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah. So which is very different because it's. And I think maybe that's why I felt a little weird leaving, because I'm such a story person. Like, if you watch any of my reviews, I'm like, the story wasn't there, it's crap. You know, but...
True.
But I don't feel that way about this movie. I just felt like I just told a beautiful story.
It was there was still enough of a good story that it held water. You know what I mean? But it just didn't blow you away.
Right. But visually, it was gorgeous.
Yes.
I thought they did a great job, and you can totally, you know... Like you said, it does feel like the Conjuring universe, and it feels like it is a small part of something much bigger of what we're yet to see. And I'm kind of getting more and more excited to see a certain movie that's coming up that I want to hate, but I'm prejudiced against it anyway. But I'm gonna watch it. And because I think if we can start tying in all of these different movies and have that overall arcing story, it's just gonna be so much fun to watch.
Yeah, so. I was especially fond of the gothic ambiance of like some of the rooms just filled with candles and stuff like that. I like the layout of Raphael's store. I thought that was cool. And those were just like the little nuances of the set design that just really enhanced just the atmosphere and like the whole vibe of the film, you know. And it did feel very much so like a Conjuring movie. I mean, they're wearing their heart on their sleeve in this particular case, you know.
Sure.
So.
Let's talk about the effects, because I was actually very happy with the effects in this movie. I think there was a great mixture of CG and practical, and the practical that was on La Llorona, she looked freaky to me. I thought they did an excellent job, and her pallor, her color, and everything, it's stuff we've seen in other movies before, and so I was like, okay, they need to do something and really amp it up and make her look... Like, they need to make her look better than the nun. And I feel like she was scarier than the nun.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
The black tears alone, like, it was great. And that's the thing. Like, I was worried. I'm like, are they going to keep her in shadow the whole time or under the veil the whole time? You know what I mean? Because she's in a bridal gown the whole time. But no, you get a lot of her facially. And I just dug it. I thought they did a great job with how she herself looked.
Yeah, the way she moved and the way they hovered and her fast and just the way that they were her hands. Like
her hands were characters alone. Almost.
Yeah, because like
emphasized a lot.
I feel like her face was okay, but I think it pulled me out of it a lot, to be honest. Okay. Yeah, but her when it was just like pieces of her that was just kind of entering the frame and
side of the tub was a great bit.
And the tub scene, you see it in the trailer, but it's very effective and it's very well done.
Very well done, and it felt more real, and I think that when you're dealing with a ghost story, the more real you can make it feel, the more involved you're going to make the audience, and you're going to really freak them out about it. And even just like the movement of the objects that she pulls, or there was a great shot when she snatches the girl without actually touching the girl, and she's flying through the door.
After
that
the line's
was
broken. Yeah, that was good.
Amazing.
Yeah, that was creepy.
I was like, that was good.
No messing around.
That got me.
I also really liked in the third act, about the same time as we get that scene where they're up in the attic and you see her natural form, and then there's a quick flash with the mirror usage, which I thought was a very effective beat as well. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, and honestly, that stuff was entertaining, and I feel like they did such a good job with the atmosphere of the film, and the sound design goes towards that too. Yeah. The sound design was everywhere. Like you hear the crying sometimes, and it starts over here, and then it moves over here, and
the
then
panning was very
you don't
well
know.
done.
Yeah, it's the sound was really good in this movie, and there were definitely some jump scares, and a lot of people hate jump scares, but I don't think that it was. I don't think that it was cheap jump scares. I think it was jump scares that were largely earned.
They were earned, but I don't know. Like, I'm usually really easy to jump, and I feel like
I only jumped once. Yeah, and I'm pretty easy to get to.
Yeah, I feel like they got me maybe once, and I don't know, maybe twice, but it was reaching a little bit. But I think it's just I wasn't feeling it on that level. I felt like the jump scares kind of cheapened the movie. I think it cheapened the movie a little bit, because I think that it could have been a little bit more just different. The different type of scare I think would have been better than just a constant like, oh, here she is. No, it's like, here she is. And it's, I mean, because her presence alone was scary enough. And like the movement of the doors and the slamming of the doors and her just like appearing on them and just kind of her heavy presence was enough. Kind of more like, it was more like Paranormal Activity.
A little bit.
No, I feel like if they would have leaned heavier towards
They
that
could
one,
have.
I
They could
think
have.
that would have been more effective for me.
Okay.
But that's just my ghost.
I would contend that
My
we're
ghosties.
probably like pretty desensitized to jump scares because it got some audience response from most
That's
of those
true.
jump
Absolutely,
scares,
yeah.
you know. So
That
yeah,
is true.
yeah, there you go.
Fuego, your thoughts on the effects?
No, I mean, I loved what transpires effects-wise with the finale, especially. I thought it was very cool, very, very well done. Yeah, makeup work, as you mentioned, was I felt like the transition of the CGI to the practical was seamless and didn't stick out like a sore thumb like we see all too often in movies like this.
Even that climax, just to jump in real quick, even that climax you're talking about, though, rang very close to the climax of another Conjuring verse movie. And
It's true,
so,
it's true.
But that's okay. I was like,
liked
it
it,
felt
though.
in the same universe.
It
So I was
looked
like, that's
badass.
if that's what happens to these kinds of entities
Yeah.
when this happens, that
Yeah.
works. It felt in the same world.
Indeed.
But anyway, I cut you off. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, and I mean, you guys really touched on the predominance of the stuff at this particular point. But
Well,
I mean,
do you agree on her? She was more of a fan of the hands than face. I thought they were
hands
both
were
great.
what I was going to mention because of the fact that I felt like the most unsettling scenes were where we didn't see like her full-on visage. We just saw, I mean, the tub scene, for instance, like we talked about. I still felt like that was one of the most unnerving, and where you're just seeing like a hand like over the tub sort of thing. And I liked the blackened, decaying looking design on the hands. I thought it was really, really well done. And yeah, I mean, I was probably a little more unsettled by those scenes where we didn't get just a full view of her,
So I think what we're uncovering here, guys, is that there are a lot of perhaps disparate pieces that we enjoyed. Like, this movie has a lot of disparate pieces. This, like, the effects and the cinematography and the atmosphere was all good, but the story was just a little lackluster, so it kind of dragged things down. It was a little bit of a...
It's light.
Not quite as good, hence disparate pieces. The pieces don't quite... I think you were even saying as we were walking out, like, it didn't feel like everything fit together exactly right.
Right.
Like, it didn't feel like there were jagged pieces, but it didn't feel like they were all the way settled into each other.
Right.
Either.
It's like you checked everything off your list and you're like, oh, this should be the movie of the year, and then you're like, well,
it doesn't quite cohere
you miss the
together.
Yeah, there's something about the
Cohere.
essence of the movie that it's missing. Maybe it is because the story was a little too light. Sorry.
But the appearance and the construction and the performances,
Yeah.
I felt like just salvaged what could have been a really bad movie.
Yeah,
in
I
a
agree.
lot of ways.
It could have been, but I think I don't want to say it's a bad movie because it's really not.
It's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie, but it's not a bad
Yeah.
movie. I mean, I think if you're a big fan of the Conjuring verse, you need to go see it in the theater and decide for
Yeah.
yourself.
Yeah.
Totally. And I like
there's
Linda
some.
Cardellini.
That's the thing. I wasn't a fan of The Nun. Fuego had more fun with it, and there were a lot of
I
people in
enjoyed
our
it.
comments
It was
of our
stupid,
review
but-
that said they enjoyed it. So there's probably going to be a lot of people that enjoy this movie, and I will not begrudge any of them for doing so. It's just we've seen a lot.
Yeah.
And so a story really has to kind of go above and beyond to really stand out. That's not what this movie does, but that's also not the only thing that mattered about this movie.
Yeah.
The style and the atmosphere matter big in the Conjuring universe.
Yeah,
And they achieved, like, they checked off 2 of the 3 biggest boxes for a
Yeah.
Conjuring verse film.
And it's kind of disappointing.
None only did
'cause
one, in my opinion.
One thing that I thought was cool about doing a movie like this was that you're starting to really bring in those other cultural legends and
I liked that.
and I really wish they could have just hit that part home because I feel like it's almost kind of like a miss, like
What if they
And
had done it
maybe-
entirely...
and maybe because I didn't grow up.
What
with
if they
that
had done it
culture, didn't
entirely
hit me, but-
foreign? Like it all happened in Mexico. and it was subtitled through the whole thing, would that have felt maybe more genuine?
Probably.
you?
I think
Or
that
at
could have
least
been
when
more
they were
effective.
I think
in
that
Mexico.
could have been more effective.
Even
Yeah.
if when they
honestly.
were
'Cause
in
it's still-
Mexico,
yeah.
they were speaking Spanish.
I mean, it's a
English.
period piece.
You mean-
It's 1973.
No, I'm
Some-
saying if
oh,
they
in the-
were,
yeah.
if they would have spoken
Yeah,
Spanish
right.
while they were in the Spanish legend, then that would have
Well,
made
in
more
the
sense.
15 something, they were speaking Spanish only. In the
Right.
in the throwback,
I'm
but
just
yeah,
like-
the rest of the movie it was.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No, they weren't.
1673
They weren't
or
speaking
whatever.
Spanish.
Yeah, no, because that was subtitled.
I mean,
the
he
origin
said,
story.
"Mama, no." I mean, so that.
But
basically-
no, she was because there was the yellow subtitles. I remember it was subtitled that part for sure.
Really?
Yeah. Yep.
Do I know Spanish? I don't know.
It's possible.
Just kidding.
It wasn't that advanced the Spanish they were using. So
Mi madre.
I don't know. Any final thoughts on this one, guys? Again, I don't
Yeah.
think this movie deserves a full-on spoiler review.
Doesn't really
There's
need one.
outside of just saying what happens at the end. There's really no nuance to going through it bit by bit. That was different for us in Pet Sematary. A lot of people were really curious. This one, I think best is just go see it and determine if you think it's good or not.
I recommend seeing the movie. I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you enjoy the Conjuring series, there are a lot of good things about this movie, and maybe I just need to rewatch it again to really feel it. But it was just, it just wasn't the complete movie. For
It'll
me.
be good for millennials, I think. People that don't have the deep horror knowledge that we do, I think will enjoy it probably a little bit more.
Or people that don't watch it a lot.
So thank you guys very much for watching. That is going to do it for our review of The Curse of La Llorona, or as Marcia says, La Llorona.
La 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 la. Llorona.
Again, we're not going to be doing a spoiler review for this, so just go see it for yourself and determine if you like it or not. Feel free to comment, like I said, down below whether you're excited for this one. If you have seen it, let us know what your thoughts are. Just don't spoil it. Give it a little bit of time for people to go see it. While you're down there, though, click the like button if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you want to see more reviews like this coming. Fuego and I have a lot of reviews coming straight out of the 2019 Phoenix Film Festival and International Horror and Sci-Fi Film Festival, so stay tuned for that.
Yeah.
Until next time, though, I've been Cecil Laird.
I'm Marshbecker.
Gracias, Jaime, and Fuego.
And remember,
Stay
stay scared!
La 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 la. Llorona.